Stay awake with Dimitri and Paul.
You're either with us or you're with the enemy. That's clear. I will continue to make that clear.
Wake up! What difference at this point does it make?
It's one of those days when you don't want to wake up.
Basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
Wake up! Wake up!
We're scared. We're scared of an Obama presidency.
I have to tell you, he is a decent person and a person that you do not have to be scared as President of the United States.
I have 2 words for you. Predator's lungs. You will never see it coming.
It's one of those days when you don't want to wake up.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Either you're with us, either you love freedom and with nations which embrace freedom, or you're with the enemy.
Wake up! Wake up!
We also ask the school board to make a part of every day some kind of anti-violence, anti-gun message. Every day, every school, at every level. And we need to do this every day of the week and just brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
It's one of those days when you don't want to wake up.
And when they say, I want my lawyer, you tell them, shut up.
Your time
Don't
is
get a
expired.
lawyer. You're an enemy combatant.
Wake up!
We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
Stay awake with Dimitri and Paul. What's your state of wake?
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I am sorry I learned something new about Spreaker today. I learned when you put the thing on mute, you have to press not just the unmute button, but the volume button, which is kind of weird. But so we had a little bit of a moment of silence there, and while we were in that moment of silence, Dimitri did have to change his diapers. So, but he's refreshed now and he's ready to go.
You're obsessed with diapers.
I'm not. It's when somebody changes diapers, not exactly in front of me, but near.
You're visualizing me in diapers.
It's not a visualization, folks. If you got, you know what? Next time I'm going to take a video. Well, actually, I'm going to have to hire someone to take a video because I don't know if I could hold the video on him long enough without totally losing my mind. Alrighty. So, how has your how has been the sabbatical? Because it's been a few weeks since we did stay away. How has been sabbatical? That's racist, by the way.
No.
Yeah. No. Oh. I'm the racist. You're just doing Yoda.
Yeah.
Dude,
You're white.
Yeah.
And you have to
That's
go
true.
there every time.
I'm full white, so that's the problem. So, how have you enjoyed the sabbatical, or have you been like, dude, I gotta get back on the show, I gotta do the show? What's it been like for you?
Wonderful.
Really? You've enjoyed the sabbatical?
I have, not because of the sabbatical, but this past Christmas was one of the best I've ever experienced in my life.
Wait, hold on.
To do with my kids.
Am I gonna get emotional?
No.
Okay, because I was hoping to, because I think our audience loves emotional.
No, no puppies or kitty cats.
Okay.
No, just a really
But you had good quality
interaction.
time with your kids.
Yeah, just amazing. And their growth and maturity at their ages is just surprising me.
Do you want to relate the Santa Claus story?
Oh, do you want to go there?
You can if you want. I think it's a good story. I think it's great.
It's a great story.
I do. I think it's great.
So
around Christmas, just before, my 5-year-old son loses a tooth. So we put the tooth under the pillow for the tooth fairy. And mommy goes up in the morning to put a toy where the tooth was. And we assume that all is well. And I'm getting the kids out the door to get to the bus stop, and they're yelling at each other in the kitchen. And I'm like, what is going on in here? And my eldest is screaming that my middle child was telling the younger child that there's no such thing as the tooth fairy because she saw her mother put the toy under the bed or under the pillow. So
the middle child.
The middle child saw this, and she was explaining to the youngest that it's all the parents that are doing it. Us.
Oh my! She dropped the fake.
She did.
She
And
dropped
so
the fake
I said,
truth.
just,
Truth fake. Whatever.
everybody pipe down, get your stuff. We're going out the door. We'll pick up the conversation tonight after school. And that's the last I thought about the matter until we got home and my middle daughter finds me in one of the rooms and says, "Can I talk to you about something?"
She's a very introspective child.
Very. And I said, "What's up, sweetie?" She goes, "The tooth fairy. It's not real, is it?" I said, "Oh, I'm not allowed to comment on this. You should ask your mother."
Yeah, ask your mother. No, ask your mother.
She goes, "I saw Mom put the toy under the pillow. Tooth fairy's not real." Like, "No, sweetie, tooth fairy's not real. It's made up." And then you saw her head cock off to one side, and her eyes widened, and she said, "Oh, you and Mommy are Santa Claus?" I said, "No, no.
By the way, we should have had a trigger warning before you said
Yes.
this. If you have small children and you're all, because a lot of families do, they gather around the radio set, the computer radio set to listen to the fake voice. So if you have that, hide your children right now, or at least their ears.
So I said, "No, that's something different. You have to ask your mom." She goes, "Dad, is Santa Claus fake?" I said, "You have to ask your mom."
Oh man.
She goes,
"Oh man.
I'm not asking Mom. I'm asking you."
Oh, she's dropping truth bombs all over you. How do you deal with that? Truth bombs all over you.
And so I couldn't run away. And I'm not going to lie to her. And I'm not going to say I believe, because I don't.
Wait, what are you saying?
I don't believe it.
What?
So everyone was telling me, you should have just said you believe. And some people do believe and some people don't believe. So she kind of got it. I mean, she got it all. She goes, "Oh, and all the chocolate from the Easter Bunny."
Oh my gosh, it all just spilled out.
Oh, and so I'm looking at her, and I'm like, my middle daughter is incredibly perceptive and intuitive. And she looks at me, and she gives me this big hug. She just rushes in and gives me this big hug. She goes, "Bye, love you, and don't worry, I won't tell Mommy."
Wow.
And it's been our secret. I mean, her mother found out because I told her mother I was so proud of her. And her mother's ticked off, of course. "You ruined Christmas!" I'm like, "No, I didn't. She actually appreciates it more." And, well, and a couple of days later, the funny part is we have the elf on the shelf roaming the house as well. And a couple of days later, she comes down. She was the first child down of the three, and she comes into the kitchen. We were having coffee and talking, and she goes, "That elf on the shelf didn't move."
Oh no.
And I looked at her.
Oh, she's clicking all over the place.
And she goes, "Don't worry, I moved it for you." She's 7.
Now, since I'm an evil person, I told my daughter, I just didn't feel like, I felt weird about the Santa Claus thing.
You felt weird about lying to your child?
Yeah, it's weird. I did. And, I'm getting the social pressure and all that. My mom, my wife, she wants to. But when my daughter was 5, I had to talk with her. When she was 5, I said, "Neela, we like to pretend But we know Santa Claus isn't real. But Lou, let's pretend. And don't tell anyone at school. And she was good. As far as I know, she didn't tell anybody at school. So you got that going on for a while, and I think that I think your oldest is 23, and she's still a believer.
She's still a believer, yeah.
She's still a believer. You know, she's a little ticked off actually because she's a believer, but Santa Claus hasn't showed up.
And that is one of a few different reasons why these holidays are so much better, because I have an ally. In my family.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
I have an ally, and she has totally rejected her mother. No, not totally rejected her mother, but at least her mother's.
I mean, your wife is probably going to listen to this show, at least the archive.
She rejected her mother's view of Christmas, and now I can build on what Christmas really means to me.
Right, as a Christian.
Correct.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's why.
And lying to children, I don't think is the proper. It's
kind of weird. And then Open the Shelf, man. I don't know. I need to do an intervention on you for that one. I said somewhere down the road wasn't the Open Shelf. I think the Elf in the Shelf. I think the Elf in the Shelf is basically trains you to accept the police state. Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, seriously. The Elf in the Shelf will turn you in.
Yeah.
Watch the Elf in the Shelf. He's gonna get you. So he's a spy. He is. He's a spy for the government. For Santa Gov. Santa Gov. Santa is a symbol of government. Yes, he's a symbol of what people think government is. The government magically gives you stuff. Gov-a-claus.
But you got to do.
But they don't say that. They don't know that.
You got to do what we want you to do.
You gotta do it. You gotta be on that good list, man.
Or you ain't getting none.
That means pay taxes, serve the military, whatever it takes to get those gifts by Santa Claus. I mean, you'll do whatever it takes to get that, that
you
red
vote
rider.
The right way. You know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And don't talk about not voting. That'd be inappropriate. So, what do you say we move into the next segment of our show? Unless you want to reveal more private secrets about yourself that, only your therapist knows. How many therapists are you seeing now, anyway? Is it down to 3?
I have 4.
4. Oh,
a wife and 3 children.
That's right. Yeah, then I have 2.
But you know the best part of my therapist? Sometimes when they feel really bad for me, they'll lift up my shirt and scratch my back.
Oh, that's fun. But I only have 2 therapists, but there is somebody in my life that thinks they're my therapist. It's on the radio show right now, and it's not me. Yeah.
Well,
he gives me fatherly advice.
I try.
How he's like a year younger than me, but he gives me fatherly advice. Pretty nice.
I try to guide him in
in the right, the right gun purchase or whatever. Right. It's
how to defend your home.
Right.
Dogs,
yeah, basic things. How to make your wife love you, which is kind of weird. That advice. It's weird. But we'll move on. We're going to go into Newsfire. And we'll have a little Newsfire bump for this eventually. But we don't have a Newsfire bump. What can we do for a Newsfire bump? Pretend we have a Newsfire bump. Newsfire, setting your world on. I don't want to set your world on fire. Setting your headlines on fire. It'll be something like that. I can't believe Dimitri didn't join with me in that. So I am actually going to start with what we're going to do in Newsfire. We're going to have a world headline, 2 U.S. headlines, a weird headline, and a tech headline. That's what I have lined up here. So our first headline is 3 Russians. Now, we're actually going to talk about this story in more detail later, so we won't get into the details too much. We're talking about Turkey. And after the alleged ISIS bombing.
The country.
No, the bird. The bird. ISIS bombed Turkey. And now the other Turkeys are ticked. Yeah. There's a country called Turkey?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in the wrong line of business. So, Turkish police, I'm reading from Euronews. Turkish police have said, okay, this is how it's written. You tell me what this means.
I gotta stop right here.
Turkish police.
Stop. We gotta back up.
No, we can't.
When you say ISIS bombed Turkey, I am reminded of WKRP in Cincinnati.
Oh, yes!
When they dropped
the great turkey drop! Yes!
How did it go?
I didn't know turkeys couldn't fly! Yeah. I just saw that on YouTube recently. Yeah.
I'm just saying turkeys being used as bombs.
That's inappropriate. So I'm gonna try to read this like it's a sentence, and maybe it is a sentence and I just can't process it. Turkish police have said to have made more than a dozen arrests of suspected ISIL members or sympathizers in fresh raids around the country following Tuesday's suicide bombing in Istanbul. They include 3 Russians who were detained in the southern province of Antalya. Southern province. That would be near the border with Syria then, right?
Yep. And Kurdish dominated.
Right, and the operation came on top of raids on Tuesday in which around 60 suspected Islamists were arrested. Now, I haven't seen any more follow-up on this yet, but I don't know if you've heard anything more about it. But what kind of gamesmanship, without us getting into too much detail, because this is actually going to be what we're going to talk about at the end of the show in more detail. Turkey, ISIS, and ISIL, and all that. What kind of gamesmanship is going on with capturing Russians? Are they trying to pin ISIS support now on the Russians?
No, they're probably trying to say that the Russians have operatives inside of Turkey that are making trouble.
And helping ISIS.
Right. The only problem is most of the Russians who are in Turkey and that part of the world as independents are from the Chechen areas, and they're Muslim terrorists themselves. So
these might be Chechens.
Oh, absolutely.
That they're calling Russians.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yes.
And Russian citizens, so they're Russians. Yeah.
And the media's going along with it, right?
Of course they are.
So there you go. So Turkey's captured Russians, and that
Chechens
means...
who they themselves were training to bomb Russians.
Right. And that means basically that Turkey never supported ISIS and ISIL, and apparently Russia did. So, stop looking at Turkey. Turkey's good. Russia's bad.
And Turkey didn't import oil from ISIL. It was the Russians who did that.
So here's an interesting statistic.
Are we moving on to the
We're
next
moving
thing?
on to the next thing. This is the way it works in Newsfire.
You need to separate.
Dude, no, I don't need to. I move with the flow. You follow flow. You are a flow follower. I'm a flow maker. See the difference? Flow maker, pointing at myself. Flow follower, pointing at Dimitri.
It's always nice when you do visuals on the radio. It's good.
You guys saw that. I know that you guys saw that in your head. You see my fingers, my fat fingers, and I do have fat fingers. I confess.
Why don't you describe your facial expressions?
My facial expressions are what's that smell? That's my face. It always is that. Whenever I'm around Dimitri, it's always that. What's that smell? Yeah. Yeah, it is. Dimitri, he's lucky. He stands on his feet all day. He gets to get that exercise in. I work on a computer. I sit down all day, and he complains. He says he has it rough. I'm the one that's sitting all day in the comfort of my living room, watching TV while I work, and you complain because you have to be on your feet all day, and you're doing all kinds of complicated physical work. I'm not going to tell you what he does for a living because it's top secret, but it's very physically demanding. And he's lucky. He's lucky that he has physically demanding work.
In a way, I work with the government.
In a way, yes. You actually, yes.
In a way.
In a way. Not in a voluntary way. In an involuntary way. So I'm looking for a statistic here.
Oh, I know what it is.
You know where I'm going.
23%.
Yes.
Have smelly feet.
No, almost. You got the right number.
Was
Looking at the Democrat. I'm leading here. The demographics of the NRA. An interesting statistic. 23% of the NRA are Democrats. And the national average as far as identifying as Democrat is 29%. So they're almost on average with the general makeup of the people who call themselves Democrats. Only 29% call themselves Democrats. Well, 23% of the NRA is Democrats. I think that's so when Obama and all the rest when they're standing up and saying, "We're going to get the evil NRA." Mr. President, you do realize that members of our party are supporting the NRA? So he's attacking his own party.
Yeah. Would you consider these guys what are they called? Blue Dog Democrats?
Blue Dog Democrats? I don't know. I think that there are a fair amount of
Reagan Democrats?
we always think that if you're I'm willing to bet that there's a fair number of pretty liberal Democrats that own guns. We always think that people are, if you're a progressive, a far left progressive, all the way down the line, you're going to be a certain way. That's not true. I've never met, well, I won't say I've never met.
I've met plenty of conservatives who don't own guns.
I've met conservatives who maybe they're not. Actually, I've met, my wife. There is a woman that she works with who is very conservative. I mean, really, really conservative. She's anti-gun. She can't stand guns. She doesn't trust guns. She doesn't think they should be around. She thinks there should be laws that you should have your guns locked up. You should only have guns for hunting and you don't need them for anything else. But she's totally conservative in all the other areas. But when it comes to guns, she's afraid. So what happens? So maybe it's a cultural thing. I won't say that I grew up around guns. I grew up in so many different situations. It's hard to say I grew up in anything. But I was exposed to guns early in my life. I did get to shoot guns when I was a kid. I went trapping with my dad, and I had to use a gun to dispose of... Dispatch.
You don't dispose of it.
I did things that I wish I could do right now. No, just kidding. Oh, I guess we'll move on, because that was, but I think that was pretty cool. You're
drifting.
No, I'm not drifting. This is all part of the plan. Everything I do is calculated to a finite point to pull off the perfect expression at any given moment in time. Like right there, that was calculated. I knew that you were going to say that, and I knew I was going to have this response.
Congratulations.
So I got this headline
for you. Are you still picturing me in diapers?
I've never
fetish around that.
It's an anti-fetish. I wish that you would stop telling me when you're wearing diapers. I don't want to know these things, but it's a thing with you. I respect that, even though it's a little weird. So I got this headline for you. You want to move on. I want to move on. We all want to move on. Restaurant switches to inclusive unisex bathrooms, but one Yelp reviewer points out the major flaw. I'm not going to read the whole article here, but I'm going to read what the owner said. The owner basically said, "When I went to use the restroom, I noticed only two choices, unisex and women. I looked around and I just couldn't find a men's. Now, if I missed it, please let me know and I'll edit this post. However, didn't seem like there was one. I can understand attempting to be inclusive of all people, as the sign in the unisex restroom said, but I can't get down with being inclusive by excluding other people. If you insist on having a women's room and a unisex room, please offer men the same courtesy." The owner's response was, "I appreciate your remarks about the unisex bathroom. We originally thought to make both restrooms unisex, but decided to designate just one. We've got a lot of friends who are single moms with sons, single dads with daughters, adults with disabled or aged parents of the opposite sex, and friends who are transgendered. So far, we haven't had any complaints since the stalls have heavy wooden doors and locks from the inside. Maybe we can make restrooms unisex." Well, totally screwed that up. "Maybe now we will make all restrooms unisex as not to have any confusion. We hope that by taking this stand, we can set forth precedent for future business owners to consider others' feelings and personal identities in order to make everyone feel welcome and included." I purposely tried to sound like a Muppet because I think that you have to have the brain of a Muppet to do what this business did, which is essentially what they have done is they have sought to appease and serve a tiny minority of people at the expense of excluding a huge majority of people. Now, maybe they won't lose business. I don't know. Maybe people will be like, "Dude, if you're going to go there, make sure you pee first. You do not want to have to pee in that place, right? It's like a no pee zone.
What I want to know.
Some people have comfort zones. They have no pee zones.
Let's just get real for a second.
Okay, let's get real.
How many transgender customers does this place have? Like 3 a year? 3 a week? How many males?
Probably more than transgenders.
You think?
Maybe a little bit more.
Just a couple?
I'm thinking just a little bit
like
more.
Statistically speaking, if you're gonna
Yeah.
run...
Oh, you're gonna love this. Where this pizza place is. Oh, it's a pizza place? Yeah, it's a pizza place. Oh, dude, no, I'm sorry. They're gonna get hurt because when you go to a pizza place, you gotta pee. Seriously. I mean, you go to a pizza place. It's like a right. You know, it's a ritual. You eat pizza, you pee.
No, you eat pizza.
Eat pizza. Drink the fountain.
Beer.
Drink beer, fountain cola, whatever.
Beer.
Fountain pop. You drink some fountain pop. Yep. Well, they're located in you know the transgender capital of the world, which is Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
It's in Charlotte, North Carolina. So yeah, that's gonna be good for them. So that's cool. I could have actually put this in the weird category, but I kept it. It is. Weird. But I think I have something weirder coming up here. So and actually, that's where we're at right now. We are at the weird category. So I have something that I'm going to play for you guys.
Is it loud?
Yeah, it's loud. Get out of your pee zone. Get out of your quiet zone or your no pee zone, whatever you're in.
How long is this going to be?
It's 1 minute and 25 seconds long. Now you don't have that time because you're an old man and it just doesn't happen that fast.
I can shake it.
And that fast. I don't think so. I've heard stories.
Okay, ready? 1, 2,
go.
3, go.
I don't think there's any chance Ted Cruz can win a general, and here's why. One observation. I don't know. This seems to have slipped through the cracks a little bit, but Ted Cruz said something that I found rather astonishing. He said, it's time for the body of Christ to rise up and support me. I don't know anyone who takes their religion seriously who would think that Jesus should rise from the grave and resurrect himself to serve Ted Cruz. I know so many people who are offended by that comment. And, if you want to talk about grandiosity and messianic self-imagery, I think he makes, Ted Cruz makes Donald Trump look rather sort of like a gentle little lamb. So
Kathleen, do you think Donald Trump can win a general?
Well, I don't think he should, but I think he has a better chance in a general election because he's not so far right as Ted Cruz. You see that his support comes from people who are very conservative, the evangelical community, many of whom may not, may disagree with what I've just said and may see it as less offensive than I did. But I think that the middle of the road people, moderates, more liberal Republicans would find that kind of a little much. And I know that, I don't see independents falling in line behind Ted Cruz.
Is she for real?
So yeah.
Is she for real?
That's a real thing.
The body of Christ.
That is a real thing.
She thinks that Christ.
So when he says the body of Christ, she thinks that he's literally saying the body of Christ. Now, I just want to point something out to you. Basic Christian theology. Don't worry, folks, if you're not a Christian, I'm not going to overwhelm you with Christian theology. I'm not going to get my preach on, although I'm capable of it. But in basic Christian theology, Jesus dies, and then he raises from the dead. You see, there is no body waiting around to be arisen, because Christ is in heaven. His body is in heaven. This is basic Christian theology. I mean, this isn't like, it's like if I met a Muslim and I said, so you guys worship the Virgin Mary. That's interesting. You may not understand our religion. I'm just saying, it's like, it's that level of stupid. And what's amazing is that no one on the panel corrected her.
Because they don't get it either.
No one looked at her and said, Oh my gosh, you're fired. You are so freaking fired. You're done. Goodbye. We do not let seashells do political commentary. Seashells are not good political commentators, as we saw in this. So there you go. Do you think that even though that last story was weird, that this story was weirder?
The last
Have
story
you
was
wrapped yourself
weird.
around this?
This is not weird. This is pathetic. That someone who, it occurred to me the other day how in this great land we have such divergence in culture. We can speak the same language. We can all speak and understand English, but our perspectives are so radically different. This woman has no idea what Christianity is.
No.
And if you asked her, are you a Christian? She'd probably say, yeah.
Now, they're serving an audience. And I'm not asking her to be a theologian or a believer. But when you're serving your audience, you have a basic understanding of your audience. I don't know the details of Islam, but I know a little bit. I don't know the details of Hinduism, but I know a little bit. I know they have a bunch of gods. There you go, Hinduism. There you go, Hinduism, a bunch of gods. Brilliant. I know a little bit about most of the major religions, enough to have at least a basic understanding of the audience that I'm serving. And it's not just that she didn't know, it's that everybody on that panel didn't know. And these are the culture makers.
The enlightened ones.
The enlightened ones.
Right. If you want to tell me that you're an enlightened one, know more about the subject than I do. And then tell me
you don't
I'm
have
wrong.
to know more about every subject.
No.
So she doesn't have to know more about Christianity.
But maybe she should have looked up.
But she doesn't have to know more about Christianity than me. I'm a Christian. I'm a pretty.
But if you're going to comment on it on national television, maybe you should look up the terminology that he's using and see what it means.
Because she's making a serious charge. The charge is that Ted Cruz is crazy.
Yeah.
And people who don't, and the sad thing is that there are probably a lot of progressive Christians, and I use that term loosely. They go to their Unitarian churches or their liberation theology, whatever churches, where there's all these different paths to God. I'm sure that when they're listening, they're not making that connection. Wait a second. Let's see, all four Gospels talk about the resurrection of Christ and okay. Nope. I don't remember any of that stuff. Ted Cruz is crazy. He's a religious fanatic with crazy ideas. Christianity is nuts. I mean, people can think that anyway, because that's what people do. But it's pretty irresponsible. She basically, what's ironic is she was actually more offensive, far more offensive than what she said Ted Cruz was. She basically denigrated an entire group. She all but assigned this belief to the evangelical Christians that were supporting Ted Cruz, that we believe that Christ is dead and that Ted Cruz can call on Christ like you can call on Ultraman. Can you call on Ultraman? I don't know. Did they call on Batman? You can call on Christ like you can Batman. Send out the Christ signal. Body of Christ, rise! Vote, 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 vote. I mean, that's what she's done here. Have we spent too much on this story?
I'm just stunned.
Still stunned. So even when we prepped for the show...
The people who are educating America are idiots.
Yeah, the idiots. Yeah.
This woman's a retard.
So when we prepped for the show, when I described this to you, you didn't fully take in the full drama of it, did you? No. You had to hear it. And then once you heard it, it was absolutely... I was gobsmacked. I actually listened to it 3 times when I first heard it to make sure that I heard it right. Because I couldn't believe there's no way that someone got on live TV and said that. But they did. Not just live TV. Not like crazy live. Like let's be honest. We're on live radio right now. We're live internet radio right now. But, we're a small-time independent operation. It is capable for crazy people to get on independent operations like us and say some crazy things.
You would think.
But this is freaking CNN.
You would think they'd have
some vetting of their personnel. Yeah, I'm not saying that word because I'm politically correct. I know. Are you? You taking the Donald Trump route?
I just don't care anymore.
You don't care?
Not at all. Did I hurt your feelings with that statement?
I actually think that you should have, right before you say that word, you should say trigger warning and then say the word.
Trigger microaggression.
No, this is more than a microaggression. This is hurting my feelings. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm a little challenged.
Well, you are.
I'm a little challenged.
You were sick for like 3 weeks.
I was actually near death for 3 weeks. I was out on my deathbed.
Whoopsie.
I was on my deathbed, and everybody said, "Well, it's the end. He's dead. He's gonna die." But like a rock, I came back. I came back.
Very slow.
No,
I mean,
hardcore rock.
I wanted to do the show. And
he did. Yeah, he did. Yeah, I said, I can't. And I call him up, and I'm like, I can't do the show. He's like, all right, good. Why don't we move on to the tech headline?
Do it.
AK-107. Why don't you tell us something about, you saw a video recently. You know, I should have had that audio for that. Darn it. I failed us. I failed our studio audience.
Again.
We do have a studio audience, by the way.
See, I prepare for this.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, okay. Why don't you tell them what you did to prepare for the show?
Paul just shows up.
Why don't you tell them what you did to prepare for the show? Go ahead, tell him. And he heated the basement. Don't forget that. He heated the basement and he took his shoes off, which is, by the way, not a good move. Definitely made me think about that futurely.
By the heater.
Oh, to get that going. Get that going. Get that scent up in there. Yeah. So what do you remember from the video? AK-107.
AK-107.
And by the way, this is on my Christmas list, or my birthday list. My birthday's in May. Everybody, think about it.
The AK-107 is an AK-47 variant that has a reciprocating.
Well, it's in the same family as the AK-47.
Yes, but it has a device that is a counterweight that moves as the mechanism is going back. This device is moving forward, and it counterbalances the recoil. It neutralizes the recoil. Amazing concept.
Yeah, and you got to YouTube AK-107, and you'll see the
amazing
recoil one.
The recoil is like 5 or 10% of a full AK-47 recoil, and that's just off the chart.
Yeah, one of the main differences between the AK-47 and the AR is accuracy, and a lot of that, a lot of it is the bullet itself, because the AR, the 5.56 is so freaking fast, but a lot of it is also the rise you get. You get much more of a rise from the AK. Well, this levels that playing field between the AR and the AK-107. It's quite incredible. It's the revised. It's incorporated a new gas system which was designed by Yuri Alexandrov for Kalashnikov pattern rifles, and the rifles are actually derived from the AL-7 experimental rifle of the early 70s. And from what I can gather, they're going to be making a push to enter it into this market.
Well, if they do that,
I think it's going to cost like a gazillion dollars.
Well, the current form is fully auto, so that's not going to make it here.
Yeah, and I remember I watched the video and I said, no, it's not fully auto. But actually, I went back, I looked at the video. The first part, they were fully auto. The second part, they were doing semi. But even in semi, it was still pretty amazing. But it's easy enough to make it in the semi.
I'm amazed that more gun manufacturers haven't moved to that.
Well, it's probably very expensive.
Well, I don't think it's expense. I think it's the weight.
Yes.
Think about the additional weight.
See if
For
I can
what
see
you're gaining in accuracy.
The weight is 8.38 pounds. That's not bad. I
An
mean, it's not.
an average AR comes in between 6 and 8 pounds.
Yeah.
So.
But this is with nothing on it.
Right.
And I don't think it has. Well, I don't. It's got. I don't know if it has the interchangeable parts like the AR. I don't see a real system on this thing.
It's a basic AK-47 with a couple of tweaks, but it has this
But
amazing
it fires
recoil.
the 5.45 round.
Yeah.
That's it.
And
That'll hurt you.
A little bit.
It'll hurt. I don't know the exact ballistics on the. What do you know about the 5.45-39?
Not much.
As compared to the.
That they're comparable. It shoots a little flatter than the 5.56. The 5.56 is an amazing cartridge. And I was never a big fan of the 5.56. I was always a much bigger fan of the 7.62x39.
Yeah, both of us kind of came around in that department recently.
Yeah. After shooting it and understanding it and going through the motions of, well, yeah, it's a 22 caliber, but holy smoke, it can punch holes through half-inch steel.
When you do the math of, and I may have this wrong, but it's like 3,000 or 4,000 miles per hour is basically what it's going.
Well, if it's
an incredible speed. It breaks the sound barrier.
It is traveling at the same speed as a 300 Win Mag.
I mean, it gets there in a hurry.
3,100 feet per second is quick. Not quick, not just quick, but it shoots flat, and it's
a very accurate round.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great for critters.
So we have anything more to say about the AK-107 other than
a lot to say, but I think it's fine.
Other than I do want the AK-107. I'm not going to lie to you.
You know what I want? I want a 300 Win Mag in the AR platform. I know there's someone out there who does it.
They're very expensive. There is. I can't remember the name of it, man.
And you think the
AK-107? Oh no! This is gonna. No, I'm actually thinking of selling your house.
Selling my house. Oh.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna sell my own. Yeah, but I have seen. Brain drain. There is a 300 Win Mag.
Brain?
In the AR, and I think it's like $5,000.
That's peanuts for people like you and me.
Well, listen, we're not supposed to share that. We want people to think that we're with them, that we're part of the plebeian class.
Didn't we just win the lottery? The $1.3 billion?
No, we missed it by a little.
I did?
Yeah.
Oh.
You had 0 numbers right, so you missed it by just a few. Yeah, just a few. Actually, also, since you didn't play, that also hurt you and your chances.
That hurt my chances?
That hurt your chances a lot.
What, supporting the government?
Supporting
an illegal lottery that they shouldn't be involved in?
Well, it's not illegal if the government does it. It's kind of like,
right.
You know,
Murder.
it's like theft and murder. It's like it's okay if the government does it, but it's not okay if you do it. See, that's
because
you got to get that down.
The government is we the people.
And
so if we the people are murdering and killing and stealing, then it's okay.
It's all
but you have to do it through we the people, because if you elect the officials who are going to lie, cheat, and steal and murder and rape and all that other stuff, then it's okay.
This segues us perfectly into the next part. We're actually going to
segue. Who invented that word?
Segue?
Yeah, it's not a real word.
Yeah, Segway is a real word.
Yeah, who invented it?
Not the Segway motor scooter thingy. That's spelled differently.
Yeah, but who invented the word Segway? Because it's not.
I think Al Gore.
Oh, that explains.
Yeah, it was Al Gore. It was like first he invented the internet, and he's like, I need to describe a word.
Segway. It's not Latin.
Describes going from one place to the next.
Segway.
Segway. It sounds. It doesn't. You know, it's almost Dutch or something. I wonder.
But it's not Latin.
Do you really want me on this show to try to?
It's certainly not Greek.
Segway.
You're typing, really.
Segway.
Wikipedia.
Seriously, I'm looking up.
You think our audience wants to hear you typing?
Do you audience want to hear me typing? If you want to hear me typing, then. So I'm looking up. Here's a word for you. I'm looking up the etymology of segue.
I asked you a simple question.
It's from Italian and it means literally follows. It's Italian. Who knew? So there you go. See, it was worth that extra time to look into the word segue. You know it. So
okay, it's from Italian. So what's the Italian word? Segueti?
I'm not going to go back into the infinite regress of
Seguitelli?
etymologies. I don't know that we have enough time on it. Let's just spend the rest of the show and talk about segue. Seriously.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do. Let's see.
It is quiet time.
It is quiet time, right? So it's from from pi, I don't know what that means. SEKW, to follow. Okay. Oh, it's from Latin. So it's from Latin sequi, SEQUI, to follow. And then the Latin actually got it. It got it from a dog. The dog coughed up some stuff, and when he coughed up the stuff, he kind of rolled right into the next place where he was supposed to be. It was like, segue. And that's how they. Wow. That's how the word. That's there. You go.
That's wow.
That's
you
nice.
Prepared this.
You know I prepare all this stuff. This is all. Yeah, I am your co-host. Hi, I'm your co-host. My name is Paul Gordon Collier, and I'm your co-host. So, we are going to play something for you to prepare you for the next segment. And
Is this the segue?
This is the segue.
Okay, the segue.
What we're actually going to end up talking about is how the Republican Party is helping Donald Trump. But before we do that, we are going to play a little mashup that I made, where I took Barack Hussein Obama, and I mixed it with the Freedom Girls singing a lovely song for Donald Trump. And just for fun, I mean, you don't read anything into this. I put the sound of marching feet in the background. That was just for fun. I'm not sending any message there. This is all good. And these are all kids singing this. So this is what you want in your state. You want this kind of stuff. So we're going to go ahead.
This government is good.
Government's good. And we're going to go ahead and play this.
He said we must be fair today, equal work with equal pay. Barack Hussein Obama. He said we must stay the same to make sure everyone gets a chance. Barack Hussein Obama. He said red, yellow, black, or white, all are equal in this sight. Barack Hussein Obama. Yes. Barack Hussein.
Okay, now everybody, let's sing it together on the count of three.
All right.
Yeah.
I like that.
1, 2, 3.
Apologies for freedom. I can't handle this. When freedom rings, answer the call. On your feet, stand up tall. Freedom's on our shoulders. USA! He said it must be fair today. Equal work means equal pay. Barack Hussein Obama. Enemies of freedom. Face the music. Come on, boys, take them down. President Donald Trump knows how to make America great. Deal from strength or get crushed every time. He said more than take a stand to make sure everyone gets a chance. Barack Hussein Obama. He said red, yellow, black, or white, all are equal in this time. Barack Hussein Obama. Over here, USA. Over there, USA. Freedom and liberty everywhere. Oh, say can you see it's not so easy, but we have to stand up tall and answer freedom's call. Hello, Mr. President. We are home of the brave USA. The stars and stripes are flying. Let's celebrate our freedom. Inspire proudly freedom to the world. American pride. It's attitude, it's who we are. Stand up tall. We're the red, white, and blue. Fiercely free, that's who. Our colors don't run, no siree. Over here, over there, freedom and liberty everywhere. Oh, say can you see it's not so easy, but we have to stand up tall and answer freedom's call.
So there you have it. Now, in fairness, I do want to point out that Donald Trump's was kids that were not in a school, in a public school, whereas Barack Obama's was kids that are in a public school. So there is a big difference there.
What was the laughter at the end?
I did that.
Why?
I pressed a button
Oh.
because I wanted to, because I thought it was
There's nothing
funny.
funny about
That was my studio audience.
Oh.
We have a studio audience.
Yeah.
You never acknowledge them. They're hurt. And that was the studio audience. They were a little nervous. They were like, they wanted to laugh, but they didn't know. So they're like kind of uneasy. Studio audience, could you guys repeat that again? See, it's like a nervous kind of, maybe we shouldn't, maybe we should.
Definitely shouldn't.
What do you say shouldn't?
There's nothing funny about nationalists.
Oh, no, you're going to get serious.
And Marxists.
He's getting serious. Go ahead, serious.
I find nationalism equally offensive as Marxism.
Well, some Marxism is actually also nationalist. So, I mean, the Soviet Union was nationalistic. Big time nationalistic. American Marxism, maybe, initially it was, but then it drifted into international, kind of one world internationalism.
Yeah. It's offensive.
The girls are like, I don't know, they're like 8 to 11 years old, wearing little cheerleader outfits, red, white, and blue cheerleader outfits, big rally. I guarantee you that if a Democratic presidential candidate, dude,
does that mean?
Yeah, Democratic presidential candidate,
Can I do it again?
he is playing with my wires, and come on, seriously,
dude,
I will cut.
Can we?
No, stop.
Fire with
Seriously. Dude, he is pressing my buttons and my wires. But come on. If there's a Democratic candidate. Are you kidding me? I will throw water at you. You know what? I'm done with this. I'm done with this show. That's the end of him. Not doing the show anymore with him. Anyway.
Come on, hurry up.
And now Dimitri has replaced the Dimitri that I just shot. Perfectly so. That's a bother shoe. That bothers you.
Work on that.
You know what? I am not easily distracted. Hold on, look. What is that down there? Oh, look at that shiny thing down there. It's so cool. Shiny. Let's talk about the shiny. Oh, I just bit my tongue. Oh, I just bit my tongue. I just put my tongue on my radio. Not good. Not cool, man. Not cool. If a Democratic presidential candidate, I'm talking wounded, by the way. I'm sucking it up. I'm talking wounded. I'm bleeding all over the place. My tongue is bleeding. I'm not exaggerating, am I?
Your tongue or your heart?
My tongue.
Oh.
Because I just bit it, now it's bleeding everywhere. I'm not exaggerating, but I'm sucking it up. If a Democratic presidential candidate had these rallies where they had these kids coming out and singing, even if they sang that exact song, and they replaced the word President Trump with President whoever was running, whether Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, whatever, the conservatives would go completely, and I believe rightfully so, completely apoplectic. Would they not? Can I say apoplectic? Is that allowed on radio?
Just, you know.
So they say they would be all besides themselves that you are resorting to these very cult-like tactics. Remember when Barack Obama did this? Remember when he was drawing stadium crowds in 2008, and how everybody said how creepy that was, and how much like Hitler and Mussolini and all the rest that was. And this is exactly what Donald Trump is doing, but it's okay because it's our guy. Because we're gonna win.
I'm rubbing my.
He's totally hosed on me, seriously. So
none of this matters to me.
It does. It should matter.
Not at all.
Why not?
This is boring.
How is this boring?
Because none of this matters.
So the song didn't matter to you, that you have this chilling parallel. Remember how angry the conservatives were with Barack Obama. Humanly possible.
Country. So it doesn't matter. It's the institutions that are running the country. The institutions have become horribly flawed. Because it's not the president who's running the.
Now, I'm not in any way, shape, or form a fan of Donald Trump. But the Republican Party is actually helping Donald Trump go forward. Now, I did not watch the debate tonight. The debate is on right now. And if you're watching the debate instead of listening to this live,
you suck.
You're dead to me.
This is more important.
But Nikki Haley goes on. She's about that. Doesn't mention that. Instead, she takes time of selling trolls, which is what the Republican Party has become. This plays right into the hands of Donald Trump. Delivers him voters.
It's the same party.
I'm talking about this from a show perspective. Yeah. I understand that. We understand that.
It's the same party, and Donald Trump is pretending to be a true alternative. It looks to me like the establishment is starting to get behind Trump, and they're starting to go after Cruz, because I believe that the establishment believes that Hillary Clinton will be able to beat Donald Trump, but she may not be able to beat Ted Cruz. I think that's what they're betting on right now. So everyone's getting behind Trump and doing these little performances to get him more attention.
You and I have talked about this before. We don't know what to believe. Like we saw a picture on Facebook, and it purports to show the cross in this fantastic light. And we both looked at it and are like, nah, that could be Facebook. You don't know what's what. You don't know if Nikki Haley is running a very clever op, in which it sounds like the establishment is aggressively going after Trump, but they know exactly what they're doing.
Of course they do.
You don't know that. I'm not saying that's what they're doing. You don't really know that. You can't say for sure. But you can say it's certainly possible that what they're doing is they are actually
sending more people his way.
Sending more people his way. You know what we need to do? We need to just let's just keep attacking him and do stupid things like State of the Union address, the rebuttal. And somebody pointed out, I forget which, I was watching Fox Business, and somebody commented, I can't remember who it was, but I agreed with this commentary. There's no way that this, I thought this before I heard it, but there's no way that this happened, that she said what she said without GOP establishment coordination. The GOP leadership coordinated this. They did this, well, she did this, not only with their permission, but with their instructions. And one of the things that they did immediately after she did the speech is they sent out messages to all the media, and they said, "Don't tell anyone that the GOP is that the GOP leadership somehow coordinated with this, because we didn't." Of course you did. But the question is, what were they coordinating? And I think this is why you don't know. They have totally demonstrated a level of stupidity in how they operate. And I say, I don't believe the Republican Party. Now, I believe they're one party, but they're different factions of one party. There is a difference between the Republicans and the Democrats. It's not what you think it is. Because at the bottom line, both of them are willing to send government agents to kill you if you don't do what they want you to do. Maybe under a conservative version or a Republican version of the Progressive Party, you won't be the target this time. But the Republicans are more of a nationalistic progressivism, and they believe that you can control the people, giving them a little bit more freedom than the progressives do. The progressives are not nationalistic, they are internationalistic, which I actually think is worse.
You mean the Democrats as progressives?
The Democrats as progressives, right? Which actually, I think internationalism is worse.
Because it's even a bigger state than
the state. A bigger state. It's a bigger, it's
Listen,
total, it's...
The state has failed.
It's imperialism.
If the state has failed, but we can make it work if it's bigger.
Yeah, they think that they're being the humble person by rejecting the small nation, the smaller nation, United States of America or Canada or whatever. But they're actually much more scarier than the nationalists.
Much more scarier?
Much more scarier. It's a real phrase. I looked it up. It's much more scarier. I'm going to stick with it. I know it's not right. I'm saying it. You know what? I'm going to own it. I'm going to get a T-shirt. It's going to say much more scarier. Much scarier. There. Are you happy now?
Okay.
You corrected me, little grammar Nazi. Thank you. So what they're proposing is to actually take over the world. That's pretty hardcore.
Wait.
In order for an international progressivism to occur, the world must be run by one government, a world empire. Talk about imperialistic designs.
Okay, and who's against this?
Well, the Republicans.
No. Okay, the Republicans are.
They're more. They want an American progressive empire.
But on the international scene, who's against? Who would be against this?
It's a competition to see who gets to put who in that world government leadership. So it's not that they're against the idea, it's that they're against you being the one to run the world government. No. It's got to be our people.
So the Germans want their people.
The Germans want their people.
The Russians want their people.
Now, I think the Russians are moving back to nationalism.
Without question.
Yeah, they're not in that camp anymore. And I would hazard to guess that the Chinese are also not in that camp. I actually think that international progressivism is a Western thing.
Right. What about India?
India, I don't know enough about India.
What about Iran?
Iran is not progressive. They are a worldwide caliphate. Right. So there's competing interests. But the bottom line is American progressives want, they haven't walked it out, but they essentially want a world empire. They want to conquer the entire world because in order for progressivism, for socialism to work, there can be no other form in any other parts of the world, because this is their philosophy, because if there is, then that part is going to corrupt what you're doing. Why didn't the Soviet Union work? Well, the Soviet Union didn't work because, not because it's idiotic. No, it didn't work because, American capitalism.
Right. So instead of going head to head with American capitalism, destroy it.
Destroy it. That whole idea where
don't compete with the most competitive institution.
What
cooperate?
What American progressivism in the 20s and 30s is alive and well, but it's in the Republican Party. The American progressivism in the 20s and 30s.
Wasn't it founded by a Republican?
Well, I don't know if it's the first progressive president was Teddy Roosevelt. I don't know if it was founded by a Republican, but American progressivism promised prosperity. It promised the good life. When the Soviet Union was going, They kept predicting after every 5-year plan, this next 5-year plan, you're going to see the Soviet Union economy is going to overtake the American economy because socialism is better. You will thrive under socialism. You will be wealthier under socialism. That's what progressivism was. It wasn't anti-wealth, anti-prosperity. It promised you this. And somewhere around the 50s, Kenneth Galbraith wrote a book. I can't remember the name of the book. And it was the Affluent Society or something like that, in which he rewrote the blueprint for the progressives. And the nationalistic progressives found a new home in the Republican Party, and this new version of progressivism became the Democratic Party. And the new blueprint was this. We can't compete with capitalism. He didn't say this, but essentially it's this. We can't compete with capitalism in making people wealthy. But what we can do is we can promise people good feelings. We're going to take care of the planet.
Equality.
We're going to be equal. We're going to have justice for all. We're going to get rid of this imperialistic culture, this white supremacy. We're going to get rid of all that. That is our new marker. As a matter of fact, wealth is bad. Prosperity is evil. That's consumerism. If you're going out and you're buying a bunch of stuff, you're contributing to the death of the planet. So they changed course in the 50s and the 60s. And they're no longer the national party. Now they are the international party. But they offer a system that must have the whole world taking part in the system. Otherwise, the system can't work, which is good and convenient because, I mean, the chances that they're actually going to take over the whole world is not very high. So they can always say, dude, sorry, we haven't taken over the whole world yet.
Well,
but they haven't. Oh, go ahead.
There's an axis that's developing. And the reason why I mentioned China, in this order, India, Iran, and Russia, is because there's an axis that's developing with those countries that they're developing military and economic cooperation that even though India had reached out to the West repeatedly, we've buffered their advances.
Or we've offered them terrible deals.
Oh, horrible deals. And so India is closing alliances with Russia and China and Iran. And I wonder sometimes, are these countries the ones that are going to stand up to Western style progressivism? Oh my God.
These nations,
that just
they're not
down.
And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but based on what I know, Russia doesn't have a design to take over the world anymore. I mean, it wants to rule its sphere. It certainly wants to be a world power, and it wants to have its sphere of influence and to be dominant in that area. And same as with China. China wants to rule the Pacific, if you will. But they don't have what we have in America with the Democrats, the new American progressives. And I would say the Republicans are the old American progressives. Republicans would actually, pardon me, be more aligned with China. Now, I'm not saying that China and the Republicans are exactly equal, because there's definitely some differences. The Americans believe more in a kind of a fascist, socialist mixed economy. And when I say fascist, most people think fascist just means boot in the head. I mean fascism in the classical sense of the government does not own businesses, but it basically tells corporations what to do. In this system, they're kind of so intermixed with each other, you don't know who's telling who what, but they're still, the government and the corporation are one. But the government doesn't officially, outwardly own the businesses like you do at socialism. So there's not an exact correlation there.
So that's like a nationalist socialist model.
But the Republicans, what they want is they want prosperity in America, which is what American progressivism is originally promised, and they want America to be the dominant power in the world. They don't want a huge American empire, but they do want to keep their bases around the world. more for protection, and also more to not just to protect their own their land, but to protect their commercial interests.
Well, and that's an empire.
It is. It's an empire, but it's not a world. It's not a take over the world empire. And the Chinese want their own empire, and the Russians want their own empire, but they don't want to take over the world. American progressives, the Democrats, want to build an empire, and they want to do it for all the right reasons: for saving the planet, for equality, for justice, for destroying white privilege, for getting rid of the the cisgender dominant culture, for killing Christianity, all the things that you got to do to create a world in which people are free to live as the government tells them to. Essentially.
Well, free to live how the intelligent people tell the rest of us how to live. And by intelligent, I mean like the CNN commentator.
And this, as we're talking here, and we started off, we're talking about Donald Trump. And I didn't think of this, and I'm thinking it as I'm talking to you. This is why Donald Trump left the Democratic Party. Donald Trump at some point caught on that the Democrats are not nationalists. Donald Trump is an old-time progressive, but he's more open in his progressivism than most Republicans are. This is why you look at Donald Trump. Does Donald Trump really fit into the Democratic Party? He actually is for some sort of single-payer plan. But if you listen to how his single-payer plan is described, it's more of a fascistic model than a socialist model, but it still involves the government controlling healthcare.
Yeah, but he said
and he doesn't.
Other things that are.
Well, he said this recently. He said a lot of, but again, American progressivism, plenty of ideas that are in keeping with old American progressivism, plenty of ideas with new American progressivism. But Donald Trump is not an ideologue. He doesn't believe in utopias. He's not trying to take over the world so he can create justice for all. He just wants power. He just wants America to be the power in the world, and he wants to be the head of that power.
Yeah, we've had some of those in the past, particularly in the early 20th century.
Right.
So is that where we're at now? 100 years? Are we repeating the cycle of 100 years?
Well, we've never been able to answer these questions. We haven't settled them yet. So until we settle them, they're going to keep coming back up. The question of socialism hasn't been answered, which Lord knows why not, but it hasn't been answered. One of the reasons it hasn't been answered is because it's only been experienced by certain segments of society firsthand at a brutal level, and many of those folks are dying. So there's a lot of people that don't remember what it was actually like under a socialist system.
Well, the Russians remember, and they've rejected it outright.
Oh, yeah, the Russians are not. Yeah, they're not. They're not moving towards socialism at all. No. They're moving more towards a fascistic model. The incestuous relationship between the large corporations and government in Russia. Are you looking at me? You're looking at me like you doubt me.
How is it any different than what's going on here?
It's not. We have.
Seriously.
No, it's not. We have a mixed economy, and in mixed economy, there's very little capitalism in this economy. There is still some free market, but by and large, at the highest levels, we are a fascistic kind of socialist mix, more heavily fascistic than. No, we're not mercantile. We're past mercantilism.
I don't know about that.
Well, state your case.
The mercantile system is one that basically sucks the wealth out of the rest of the world and enriches a particular state.
Mercantilism has a certain end. The end is to enrich the state. Fascism and socialism have idealistic ends. They have an end to create a better world for everyone.
Well, I think that might be the case, at least in the minds of Democrats and their kinds of progressives. But I think that there are still entities within the United States that have pushed the mercantile system.
Yeah,
and
even
has
within the Republican Party, like for instance, one of the things that we're discovering during this election cycle is that the Republican Party, first of all, the Republican Party is absolutely controlled by the old American progressives. That's the leadership. That's who's directing the party. But within the party, there have been these elements that I don't think they really understood and knew who was in charge in the Republican Party. Within the Republican Party, you still actually have, for instance, you have minarchists, or as Lou Feen calls them. He'll be on. By the way, he'll be on another show I do called the Association Nation tomorrow at 8 p.m. He calls them mini-statists. They believe in very limited government with a very, very minuscule rule. Those folks are still in the Republican Party. They're a small percentage of folks. And then you have they go a little bit beyond the mini-statists, but they're limited government people who believe in individual liberty, who believe the primary role of government is to basically mete out justice, but they see some planning, some management for the federal government, but not a lot. So those groups exist, but they're not in any way. They have very little in common with. Again, there is the mercantile camp within it. I don't know how much mercantilism we have. Well, actually, mercantilism can be found in the example of India. With the deals that we'd be making with India, were designed to.
Or Africa, or Latin America, or Cuba.
Right.
Go down the line. 20th century history is America trying to.
But I would argue within the Republican Party, the dominant group is the old American progressives. They're the ones that's driving that car. And the Republican Party is becoming unglued because of it. But Donald Trump, that everybody is flocking to, he is part of that old American progressive guard. He maybe has a little bit more fascism mixed in. And again, I have to repeat this. When you say fascism,
you don't know what
it's got such a dirty meaning to it. Fascism doesn't mean I'm going to kick you in the head, although I might.
But you don't know with Donald Trump what he really means. Because it's obvious that he's just saying what he has to say to advance himself today. And tomorrow...
His view of government is pretty clear. How he has used government in business is pretty clear. Now, it might make him a pragmatist. Maybe he's just a pragmatist. That could be. But a pragmatist who produces remarkably fascistic results. The way that he's used eminent domain to grow his empire, that's not something that you do if you really believe in liberty and individual rights and limited government. You don't do stuff like that. So what we do know, and there's a wide variety of when Donald Trump comes into power, is he really going to respect your gun rights? Or is he going to say, yeah, I'm totally for gun rights, but, there's this little thing here. You have no idea. But what you can bank on is that Donald Trump will see a significant role for government in directing your future over the next few years. That you can tell.
Yeah.
So I think we've beat this horse into the ground.
Absolutely.
Are we ready for the last segment? Are you ready for the last segment?
I've been ready.
So the last segment is going to begin with...
Is this nap time?
This is very short. It's only 56 seconds long. This is Louis Gohmert, who was on, and I'm going to play this segment, and then we're going to talk about what's going on in Turkey. Or no, this is about the Iran deal. So we'll talk about Iran. We'll just talk about Iran, Turkey, the whole thing that's going on there, because it's all interconnected. But Louis Gohmert says some pretty chilling things about, I think they're pretty chilling, about how the federal government has handled the Navy situation in the Persian Gulf.
Well, first of all, I understand that John Kerry has indicated that, look, when he got word, he and Ash Carter called the Iranians to, help take care of our Navy guys because they had some mechanical problems. And when our Navy ships have problems We don't call Iran. We call the rest of the Navy. We can call the Air Force, the Army, the Marines, Coast Guard. We don't call Iran. But I guess, if you've got relatives that have weddings that involve the people that are in charge in Iran, well, maybe you feel that comfortable. But Dana, there are secrets on every military ship we have, military boat, military fast boat, whether it's inflatable or not, that has no business being in the hands of the Iranians.
I think those are some startling claims by Louis Gohmert, if they're true, that the U.S. government actually called Iran and said, help us with these boats. Why would you do something like that? I'm asking you. You're the only one in this room other than our studio audience, and they're not allowed to talk.
How on earth did our boats end up in Iranian territorial waters? They drifted there.
They drifted there was the initial thing. Now there's a report throwing the Navy guys under the bus, saying that it's their fault that they didn't read their GPS right.
Dude, this
Strange.
whole thing stinks.
The whole thing definitely.
It smells to high heaven. Is this a PR campaign on the Obama administration? As an attempt to say, look, okay, let's get some boats in the Iranian territory. Don't attack them. Let's all come together and say, look, with diplomacy, look what great things can happen.
Of course,
Iran,
again, they're messing with a Frankenstein in Iran, unpredictable Frankenstein.
I don't think there's anything unpredictable about Iran.
There is something unpredictable.
The mullahs,
totally
predictable.
In terms of what you think Iran is going to do, they are unpredictable for the United States. If the United States says, hey guys, let's do this, you really don't know if Iran's going to do that. In that way, they're unpredictable. And they proved it here. Because, and if this was, like you said, an op to make the ironically enough, to make the Iran deal look good, the Iranians didn't play ball. Because what did they do? If the Iranians were just sent to help these ships out, you don't go up to a ship that you're just helping out and say, put your hands up in the air, and we're going to detain you. You don't do that when you're just helping someone. You don't make videos of them. And you have, in the video, for instance, the woman was forced to wear the traditional garb. And you have the captain of the ship that you're putting this on your TV, and you have the captain on your ship that you're questioning. He has to say, I apologize. This did not help the Obama administration at all. It totally backfired on them. It turned out to be a PR disaster because the Iranians didn't do what the Americans thought they were going to do, which is just play ball. And you know what? I think that you make a good point. I stand corrected. The Iranians are predictable, but the Americans keep thinking that they're like us. They have their own agenda.
Completely.
And their agenda is
you think about 7 steps ahead of ours.
You think about right, and you think about what this was for the Iranians. They're about ready to take this nuke deal, and they always talk about how evil America is. This is a great PR move for them, because hey, look, man, we're still the badasses here. We humiliated the Americans. We're taking this deal as a joke because they're a joke. And you can see it by what we just did with these soldiers. That's what happened here. Pretty bad stuff for the Obama administration. They screwed up again. They misread the Iranians.
The Iranians took advantage of the situation.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I think it still was an op.
Oh, I do too. I agree with you, but I think it was an op that went terribly wrong for the Americans. It was an op by the Iranians, though. I mean, as soon as they got the call, they knew exactly what they were going to do.
And they took advantage of it. And they were like, yeah.
There is another possibility. Maybe you're going to say, There is another possibility, although I do not believe, no matter what, that the Americans wanted the Iranians to do the whole pictures and videos thing. That was not what the Americans wanted. But I think that there's a very real possibility that this was some sort of subversive way to pass stuff to the Iranians that they want them to have, some technology or something.
I think there's more to it than that.
Go ahead.
I think this is a stepping stone where the Iranians are going to see are going to be using it as a photo op, saying, "Look, we're Billy Badass in the neighborhood," and America's going to say, "Yeah, well, they may think they're Billy Badass in the neighborhood, but this is definitely a step in the right direction. They didn't keep our people hostages like they did with the not Iran Contra, the Iran that was different.
The embassy.
Embassy hostages." They're softening their tones. They're less aggressive with Israel.
See, it's working.
It's working. It's working. And they have to produce that agenda. They do.
All the rank and file American people, other than the true blue worshippers of Obama, all the rank and file American people are going to remember, and especially
There's a
with
bunch of
Trump,
Americans with their hands on
a
their
bunch
heads.
of Americans and an American captain apologizing on Iranian TV. This is utter humiliation to most Americans. This again feeds right into Obama.
This is
by the way. Into Trump. This is delivering votes to Trump.
Maybe, but this is the beginning of a bridge building campaign between the United States, Israel.
Well, if Trump wins,
Iran.
this ends.
Yeah, well, of course it does. I think.
Although I think Trump will build some serious bridges to Russia.
Look. The bottom line is this: Israel has had it out with the Turks and vice versa. There's no way of avoiding the fact that Iran has the same population as Turkey, but has people who are far more industrious than the
Far
Turks.
more educated.
Yes,
overall. They have much more sophisticated culture overall.
Than any other culture in that part of the world.
Yeah.
Right?
Even rivaling, if not exceeding, Israel.
Oh.
I'm not going to say exceeding, I'm not going there, but certainly at least rivaling.
If their economy takes off, they will be a powerhouse in that part of the world that Israel cannot ignore, that Turkey cannot ignore, that Saudi Arabia cannot ignore. The minute that Iran's economy starts to take off, all of those countries become secondary and tertiary in terms of geopolitics, because Iran is going to eat all of their lunches cumulatively. And then what will the position of the United States be towards Iran? Hey, let's make nice. What about the European Union? Hey, let's make nice. Because you're going to have a real substantial economy to trade with people who actually have buying power. So everyone is going to be looking to close better relations with Iran. These are tentative moves in that direction. And the Russians are there ahead of us. The Russians are guiding Iran back into the rest of the world, and Iran is beholden to them. And Iran doesn't take orders from Russia, but boy, don't they coordinate. They do. They have been.
I'm going to read something from Reuters. I'm going to start off reading from a quote from a Turkish official here. This is about the alleged ISIL bombing.
Okay.
He said this individual was not somebody under surveillance. He entered Turkey normally as a refugee, as someone looking for shelter. After the attack, his connections were unveiled. Among these links, this is where it gets really interesting. Apart from Daesh, we have the suspicion that there could be certain powers using Daesh. Turkey accuses Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and his allies, including Iran and Russia, of cooperating with Islamic State and the Syrian regime's effort to destroy Syrian opposition forces. Now, I'm just going to put this out here. ISIS is fundamentally, ISIL will do this. They would do this if they were paid. They'll do mercenary work. But there's no way that ISIL is going to be actually working with Russia and Iran to help prop up Assad. ISIL absolutely has a religious fanatical goal to create a worldwide caliphate, and that doesn't happen with Assad in power.
So does Erdogan.
Well, Erdogan does too.
So does
yes, he does.
The family of Saud.
Oh, most assuredly, he is. I refer to Adolf Hitler as Erdogan's political father.
Yeah,
they are one. There's just a few differences. The Turks are the Aryans. That's the big difference. And they're instead of the weird, I call Hitler's religion was kind of like a Christo-pagan, Hitlerian religion. Theirs is Islamic, a certain brand of Islam.
So Erdogan and the Turks and the Saudis and the Saudi royal family created ISIL, and now ISIL
that Frankenstein is coming to.
Well, look,
we can't control our monster.
So let's blame it on the Russians, Iran, and anybody else we can.
And what's remarkable to me, first off, I do not believe that ISIS bombed Turkey. I could be wrong. I just don't believe it. But what is remarkable to me is nobody's questioning it. When you Google it, every single major news outlet is just parroting it.
They have to change the narrative.
They have to change the narrative, exactly.
Because it's failed. The line they've been towing so far has failed.
You think of, I'm going to use the word we rather loosely, but we, the United States of America, it's kind of like Germany's position in World War I, where Germany was saddled with a loser that was making stupid moves, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Turkey is our Austro-Hungarian Empire. We're sticking with Turkey. You got Iran here. I mean, I'm no fan of the regime in Iran. Let's make that clear. But in terms of what is going on in Iran, you're actually more free to pursue a life of discovery in Iran than you are in Turkey. Iran is the better place to live. Sorry, Saudi Arabia is worse than Turkey.
By a lot.
By a ton. It's not even close. Saudi Arabia is the worst place. And here are our allies, Saudi Arabia and Turkey. But I'm going to focus on Turkey, because Turkey, I think it's really, I mean, the Saudis have done a lot to drag us down. And it's our own fault. We enabled the Saudis. They served our purpose well. But the Turks, the Turks are making moves right now that are putting us at odds with Russia, at odds with Iran, who are developing nations, and we're stuck with a regime that wants to recreate the Third Reich, but it's going to be the Muslim Reich.
Yeah, the Ottoman Empire.
The Ottoman Empire, right. This is the position that we're in. But this is why I'm highly skeptical of this whole thing.
But, big but. Sorry, I didn't mean to say big but.
Really likes to go there.
Big but. Yeah. Russia and Israel have been working on military technology together.
Yeah, Israel's becoming their new 3M labs, basically.
Russia is closing better relations with Israel, has good relations with Iran, is developing relations with the Kurds and Iraq, India, and China. There's a swath from China to Israel where Russia has more of a positive influence, or I don't know if it's a positive influence, but has more of a
good relationship, at least.
Thank you. Good relationships and geostrategic interests that are parallel than the United States right now. That from China to Israel and Russia.
Well, what is the United States in the world right now? The United States they left their whatever you feel about the U.S.-Israeli relationship, it was always viewed, and rightfully so, as this was America's most coveted ally, the one that they were going to come through with for no matter what. And America has pretty much left Israel hang out to dry.
Well, because we're trying to
look,
close better relations with Iran.
Well, let me finish this. So when the rest of the world looks and sees what we have done to our closest ally, it's kind of like, you know what? If I saw you with your wife and you treated her badly, and you stole from her, and I knew you stole from her, and you left her totally out to dry. She needed you. She called you and said, I'm broken down and I need help. And you're like, my level of trust for you would plummet. I'd be done with you. I would never trust you. That's where the United States is. There's no one that will trust the United States. And the rest of the world is now starting to look at the United States and they're like, you know what? You benefited from World War II. You benefited from the fact that everybody else was totally gutted and you were like the only power standing. And you got to create a worldwide currency, which gives you a huge advantage over the rest of the world, and we're all sick of it. They wouldn't be so sick of it if America was a trusted ally that came through for you, that you got something out of it. But right now, there's not many people that are getting anything from America anymore. America's just taking at this point.
Everyone feels exploited by America.
Yeah. And at this point, I'd say rightly so. I won't get into whether it was like that before. We all know. We won't get into that.
I think
maybe another show.
I think you use the Austro-Hungarians as being the goofy ally to the Germans.
Yeah.
You can also use the Italians in World War II as the goofy ally to the Germans.
Right. Exactly.
Who really dragged them down.
Same exact thing. Making stupid moves, and now the Germans have to bring in their resources.
And it cost them the war twice.
Yeah, it cost them the war. Yeah.
Twice. Because to me, it's the same war. It's the same war. It's a continuation of the same exact war. It's the same parties fighting the exact same war. Along the same lines.
It's all banking. They're all just fighting over banks.
Right.
They're using nationalistic, religious, whatever they can come up with, ways to get people to actually fight the wars.
And now, what are we developing now? Similar lines being drawn in the sand. And Turkey is in the middle of it. And Turkey, just like World War I, is going to have a major part to play in this little theatric performance, because they have been screwing with every single one of their neighbors. Shortly after World War II, they attacked and took a piece of Syria. Then they attacked and took a piece of Cyprus. They've been trying to take parts of Greece away from the Greeks since God can remember. Well, God has pretty good memory. But
he goes further back than the Greeks.
Well, not by much.
Yes. Dimitri is Greek, so that's where that comes from.
So,
let's just be honest. That was good. That's good.
I mean, the Armenian situation, they're desperate to hold on to what's left of their empire because they can see the end coming. They can see the demographic shift that's about to take place in Turkey. And that is that they're going to be outnumbered by a minority. And the Turks will, for the first time, be a minority within their own country.
Right. And so they're running out of time to get this done.
Right. The Kurdistan is right around the corner. So they've been screwing with everyone to try to keep it together. And the longer they can hold on to the lie, the more entrenched the lie becomes, and the more that the lie becomes reality. And what's the lie? That Turkey is a single country. It isn't. Never has been. It's a group of ethnicities.
And even among the Turks, the self-identified Turks, there's some heritages there and ethnicities there that they're in denial of.
Oh, without question. The big lie in Turkey
there's a lot of Greeks still in Turkey, for instance.
Well, genetically, genetically, most of Western Turkey is more closely related to the Aegean markers than the tundra and steppes genetic markers. Not to mention Assyrians, Armenians, Jews, Pumaks, which are kind of Turk, Slavs. There's something like, if I remember correctly, 23 or 28 distinct ethnic groups within Turkey. Are the Kurds, Persians, Arabs. The list goes on and on. And the big lie is that those are all one people, and they're not. And they can't be held together. And in desperation, the Turks have screwed with everyone. And now the chickens are coming home to roost.
Yeah, the chickens are there and the turkeys are there, right? Coming out of WKRP in Cincinnati, dropping like stones because turkeys don't fly. So that's the problem. Turkeys don't fly.
And now the Israelis are looking at their neighborhood and saying, what is going on with the Turks? They were a trusted ally since the 40s and 50s. What do we do now?
They're cozying up to the. I mean, I don't know how it's going to play out, but they're kind of. It sounds nuts that I'm going to say this, but they're moving into the Russia-Iran orbit.
Yes.
I don't know how that's going to play out, but you think about, is Russia really going to let Iran nuke Israel? Especially if Israel is Russia's 3M.
No.
They're not.
And part of this whole debacle
everything is flipped around.
Yeah, but there's more to it though. And the more important part is that the Turks, the Saudis, and the Israelis thought by breaking up Assad that there could be a possibility of creating a new Palestine for the Palestinians. And no one would lose anything. The Israelis wouldn't lose anything.
That's not going to happen.
Correct. The Saudis wouldn't lose anything. The Turks wouldn't lose anything. And you would have a new Palestine. And why would you need this? Because it would put an end to the Palestinian conflict with Israel once and for all. And with that done, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey could come up openly and say, we're creating an axis that's going to go against Iran.
But that's done.
It is done.
And Israel's no longer in that orbit.
No.
It's done.
They've jumped out of that orbit quick.
Yeah,
and they had to.
And the Greeks, by the way, are also moving in that same orbit.
Which orbit is that?
Russia, Israel, Iran.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, look at what the Greeks and the Israelis and the Cypriots are doing. And not to mention Egypt.
Right. I mean, Egypt, here you have Egypt. Egypt, it was begging to still be under American influence. Begging. And America, Obama, singularly rejected them.
Right.
And they're like, dude, we need another buddy.
So now you go from China to India to Iran to Iraq to Israel to Cyprus to Egypt and Greece and Iran and Russia. Now you have a major
coalition.
Yeah.
That can challenge the United States.
And the rest of the world.
That can come together and say,
we're done with you.
New world currency.
Yeah, we're done with you.
Right.
So, and the Israelis aren't stupid. They see that Iran is coming online.
Mm-hmm.
And they see that
maybe
it's time to fix things with Iran.
Yeah, one thing about Iran especially, Iran, whatever, is the more cultured you get, the more sophisticated your society gets, the less likely you are to jump into schemes which would potentially annihilate you. And this is what's happening in Iran. There is a very sophisticated culture that's already been emerging, but it's actually accelerating in Iran right now. They have figured out a way to give people space within their strict rules They have figured out a way to give the people space to be creative, to be exploratory. And the more that those people explore, the more those people discover that I think the mullahs' days, they're either numbered or the mullahs of the future will be radically different than the mullahs of today. Because suddenly they're going to have a whole lot more to lose than they think they do right now. And suddenly you have a player in Iran that's going to look at Israel as a potential ally against all the barbarians around them, not as an enemy.
When the Iranians look at the Turks and see them as their enemy, and the Israelis look at the Turks and see them as their enemy,
yeah,
they have a common problem.
And then they also have Russia pulling them together.
Yeah,
and this is something I haven't heard people talk about. How Russia is influencing. Oh my gosh, Russia could provide within 5 years or so. Russia could provide the stabilizing influence in the Middle East.
And you do realize that the one thing that is going to glue them all together is the oil from Iran, all of the oil that's just been found in the Mediterranean just off the shore of Israel.
Natural gas, all that.
Yep. The oil and natural gas that's been found off the shore of Cyprus. The oil and natural gas that's been found all around Greece, and Greece can't touch because the minute it starts drilling, it's going to have to deal with the Turks, who are going to say, well, it's ours, and there's going to be a war there. So everyone in that neighborhood would benefit if Turkey split up. Everyone.
Yeah.
And by everyone in
Certainly
that neighborhood,
Assad even.
wait,
by
everyone in that neighborhood, I mean Greece, Egypt, Cyprus.
By everyone
Israel.
in that neighborhood, you know what you really mean? I'll cut it down. You don't have to name nations. The people who actually want to live a good life, as opposed to the people who want to die screaming Allah. And the people who want to live a good life, there's plenty of them that are Muslims. They just want to live a good life. And they're sick of the, let's all go out and die for Allah.
But the countries that we've mentioned, from China to Greece, who are being influenced by Russia, all have something in common. They all want the natural gas and the oil that's been found in the Mediterranean. And the Turks are going to sell out to Great Britain and the United States, and they all know that. The Israelis don't want to sell out to Great Britain and the United States.
Not anymore.
No.
Not
neither
anymore.
do the Cypriots, neither do the Greeks or the Egyptians.
Again, because you have a nation, you have someone who beats his wife. You don't trust that guy.
Right.
That's what America is right now. He beats his wife.
So the Chinese have an aircraft carrier. They're first, sitting off the shore of Syria, running support to the Russians. Are you kidding me? The Chinese have an aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean.
It's a Russian aircraft carrier. They just bought it. But still.
Does it fly a Chinese flag?
I don't want to overplay the Chinese having an aircraft carrier, but yes, it does. It flies a Chinese flag, and they can run it, and it's actually operational.
Yeah.
And that's significant.
And the Iranians wanting to run a pipeline through Iraq into Syria is a big deal, because now the Syrians are beholden to the Russians, and the Russians are going to control the spigot. And that spigot's going to go straight to Europe.
So let's summarize this, because we got about 6 minutes left here.
How long have we been talking?
Since 10.
Oh, there's a ladybug on my phone.
Oh, is that what you were pointing out to me? I didn't know what you were pointing out. Oh, that's so awesome. My daughter's nickname is Ladybug.
You should take a picture of this.
So in summary, basically, the whole geopolitical reality is changing in the Middle East, and Russia. I would say, Russia, China, but Russia is really at the forefront. Russia stands to gain the most in the new reality. China will certainly gain. The United States of America, though, for all of you nationalistic, jingoistic folks that think this is the end of American greatness, I don't want to discourage you. Because the United States of America is still like a sleeping giant. It still has vast resources. It still has a vast, highly developed technological mind source, if you will. What America can do if you turn on the spigots, what America can do if America stops actually working against itself, it's almost scary because everybody else is fighting over these resources in the Middle East and Mediterranean, and they got to go through these channels and pipelines. And the United States of America has everything it needs right here, and then some, as far as any resource that it needs. It's embarrassingly wealthy as far as natural resources are concerned. Guy like Donald Trump comes on, and he starts turning the spigots on. What, you know what? Maybe we'll save that for another show. We'll think about that for another show. What would it look like if America turned its spigots back on and it stopped sabotaging itself? It's not going to go gently into that good night. It could be bad.
Or it could be great.
For people who really love jingoistic, nationalistic stuff.
No,
Yeah.
if we just butt out of other people's
Maybe if
business,
America had the power but didn't presume the roles that it had before, sure, it could be good for America. We could actually learn that we could let the rest of the world do what it wants to do, and we could still have a good life here at home.
Mind our own.
Right. The actual original Republicans, well, I'll say that not the original Republicans, but the Republicans in the 20s and the 30s, the quote-unquote so-called isolationists, which is a loaded term. It just meant we're just going to leave the world alone. Those folks, all they were concentrated on, all they wanted was they wanted prosperity at home. They wanted America to be strong, and that's it. They didn't want to dominate the world. That could be better for the world. Now, of course, what would be really great for the world is if everybody found a way to no longer depend on government at all, but that we'll save for another show. We got about 3 minutes left here, and I want to bring a heads up to folks that coming up, I don't know when we're going to do this show, but we're already working on it. We are going to be working on a show probably the first or second week of February. We'll have it done and ready to go, where we're going to look at the top viral stories of 2015 and draw some connections for you as far as why these stories, what's really going on here, what narrative is being pushed, what end does this serve. While these viral stories were going on, this was going on. So that's coming up. And I just want to say congratulations, Dimitri. You did a great job. Your first live show.
Wow.
And no, he was not wearing diapers. That was a total joke. I think everybody knows that. I was. I actually still am.
I have to say, in my life, at this moment, I feel the best I have in years. Not physically, not emotionally, but I feel like the veils of government are being lifted off of the eyes of people all over the world. And you see people challenging their governments everywhere. Not just in the United States, not just in Europe, but all over the world. The question is, what will replace the existing structures?
The state as we know it today.
Yeah. But I am so optimistic.
We're going to pursue those in future shows, obviously.
I'm so optimistic about where we're headed.
Yeah, and
we don't nuke ourselves.
And one of the things that we're going to look at to help illustrate exactly what Dimitri is saying is 100 years ago, or near 100 years ago, probably around 1917, at least Europe came awfully close to this realization. But then the United States of America came, and that was the end of that. But that's another show. We are definitely going to do a show.
Well, you're talking about World War I.
Right, about World War I, near the end of World War I.
Right.
What actually happened, what was going on with the revolutions, and how people's eyes were opening because they were coming face to face with the brutality of, and the phrase that I have now is the state as it exists today. What comes after this, I don't know. But it's not going to look like, it's either going to be much scarier than it is now, or it's going to be a lot more liberating and a lot more small scale.
But those two forces seem to be butting heads right now. The ultra statists, whether they're from the right or from the left, and the liberty-minded.
Well, it's always the battle throughout history, the coercion, non-coercion, liberty, control battle. It's always going to happen. It's never going to end. We may be about ready to enter into a period of time where we have more liberty than we've ever had before, but it won't last.
It never does.
It never does. It's always a constant battle between
Sparta,
liberty and coercion.
Athens.
Sparta, Athens.
I mean,
now,
where
and
are we?
even then, when you're talking about Sparta, Athens, you're talking about Athens for the citizens and
Right,
Athens the
right.
slaves. But still, Sparta and Athens, as far as their citizens were concerned, big difference. But so I want to thank everybody who has joined this show and listened to our first. This is not our first State of Wake show, but this is our first live show, and we'll be doing live shows, right? That's what we're going to do. So we're going to do this live. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play you out with how we began. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Paul Gordon Collier. We'll see you next Thursday at 10 p.m. You go to if you don't have Spreaker, get Spreaker on your mobile phone. You can download the app. Just go to Google Play or iTunes, and there's a Spreaker app available. And when you get the Spreaker, then look up State of Wake. Be sure you subscribe to us and go to our webpage, facebook.com/State of Wake, all one word. And be sure to like our page. And also, you can go to stateofwake.com and hear archives of the latest shows. This is Paul Gordon Collier with
Dimitri.
I call him D-Boz, but he doesn't know that I call him in secret. We'll see you next week. God bless, good night, and farewell.
State of Wake with Dimitri and Paul.
You're either with us or you're with the enemy. That's clear. I will continue to make that clear.
What difference at this point does it make?
It's one of those days when you don't want to wake up.
Basically, taking over and the government running all of your companies.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
Wake up! Wake up!
We're scared. We're scared of an Obama presidency.
I have to tell you, he is a decent person and a person that you do not have to be scared as President of the United States.
I have 2 words for you. Predator's lungs. You will never see it coming.
It's one of those days when you don't want to wake up.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Either you're with us, either you love freedom and with nations which embrace freedom, or you're with the enemy.
Wake up! Wake up!
He also asked the school board to make a part of every day some kind of anti-violence, anti-gun message. Every day, every school, at every level. And we need to do this every day of the week and just brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
It's one of those days when you don't want to wake up.
And when they say, I want my lawyer, you tell them, shut up.
Your time
Don't
is
get a
expired.
lawyer. You're an enemy combatant.
Wake up!
We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
State of Wake with Dimitri and Paul. What's your state of Wake?